It was Monday morning, and Lagos traffic had already drained half my energy. By the time I stepped into the office at exactly 8:45 a.m., sweat was sticking my shirt to my back. The receptionist barely looked up from her phone. She didn't need to. I was just another employee, nothing special. But today felt different. I worked at a mid-sized tech firm in Victoria Island. Not one of the big names, but we were growing. At least, that's what I thought. I had given 5 years of my life to this company. Stayed late, worked weekends, took the blame for things I didn't even do, just to prove I was loyal. My boss, Mr. Bayo, called me into his glass office. He was grinning. That fake, wide-lipped grin he always wore when he wanted to humiliate someone politely. "David," he said, leaning back in his chair, "you've been consistent, but we need someone with vision. So, we're moving you to admin support." I froze. Admin support? It's not a demotion, he laughed, just realignment. Everyone heard that laugh. The whole floor turned to stare. I nodded, left the office, and something inside me snapped. I didn't cry. Not that day. But when I got home, in my tiny one-room apartment in Surulere, I sat on the bed and stared at the ceiling. My chest was tight. I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. Just admin support, I whispered to myself. Like I was trying to believe it wasn't real, but it was. The next morning, they moved me to a small corner near the supply cabinet. No windows, no team, just me, and a broken office printer that somehow became my responsibility. That week passed like a blur. Nobody really talked to me anymore. Once I caught Bayo passing by. He didn't even look my way, like I had disappeared. But in that silence, something new grew inside me. Anger? Maybe. But more than that. Fire. I started reading every book I could find about business, marketing, leadership. During lunch breaks, I'd sit on the steps outside with my phone, watching videos about how to build a company from scratch. I didn't know how I was going to do it yet, but I made myself a promise. This is not where my story ends. A few weeks later, I had an unexpected visitor. Zainab from finance walked up to my dusty little corner. She glanced around, leaned in, and whispered, "David, what happened to you wasn't fair." I looked at her, unsure what to say. Then she slipped a brown envelope onto my desk. "These are the internal numbers. You didn't hear it from me." I opened it. Inside were reports, inconsistencies, missing funds, and strange transfers. My heart beat faster as I flipped through the sheets. Mr. Bayo's name was on several of them. Zainab whispered again, "He's not who you think he is." I looked at her. Her eyes told me she was serious, maybe scared. "But why help me?" I asked. She hesitated. "Because I think you're the only one who can do something about it." That night I couldn't sleep. I read every document, every line, every red flag. I didn't know it then, but that envelope was the beginning of everything. The betrayal, the strategy, the rise, and one day, the takeover. I spent the next few days studying every detail in that envelope. My head spun with numbers, names, and dates. The deeper I looked, the more I realized Mr. Bayo wasn't just cruel. He was corrupt. He was moving company funds into a private account under a fake vendor name, and nobody had noticed. Or maybe they had, but were too scared to speak. I started gathering more information quietly. I helped Zainab with reports, even offered to clean up old files in storage. It gave me access to things nobody cared about, but I did. One evening, as I left the office, I stood by the Third Mainland Bridge for a while. I watched the water move, the cars pass. I felt small, powerless. But then I looked at the sky, orange from the sunset, and I said to myself, he may have demoted me, but I'm going to rise so high he'll need binoculars to see me. I wasn't just going to report him, I was going to outgrow him, and then replace him. I knew I needed allies. So I started helping people, quietly. I stayed after work to fix spreadsheet errors for colleagues. I showed younger staff how to prepare better reports. I made myself useful. One by one, people started coming to me with their struggles and their trust. I didn't talk about bio. Not yet. I just listened, watched, took notes, and I worked on my own dream in secret. I started building a small tech side project with a friend from school, a business management app for small African companies. We called it Ogadesk. Every night I'd code until 2 a.m., eyes red, fingers tired. Then I'd wake up by 6, dress up, and go back to the same dusty corner at work. Nobody knew what I was building, not even Zainab, but I believed in it. And I believed that one day it would be my way out. It was a Friday afternoon when everything changed. Bio burst into the office red-faced, holding a printed email. Who accessed the finance archives last week? Everyone froze. I kept my head down, but inside, my chest was pounding. He stormed into departments, yelling, accusing, threatening to fire people. That evening, he called a mandatory staff meeting. We all gathered in the conference room. He stood at the front like a general at war. "There are rats among us," he said, "and I will find them." His eyes scanned the room and landed on me. I stared back, calm, because what he didn't know was that I had already backed up everything, and I had just received an unexpected email. A local investor, someone I had met during a tech pitch night in Yaba, was interested in Ogadesk. He wanted to talk on Monday, so while bio was raging, I was quietly planning something far bigger. That weekend, I barely slept. I met Mr. Adewale, the investor, at a quiet cafe in Lekki. He wore a simple native outfit and smiled like someone who had already made peace with life, but his questions were sharp. "Why are you building this app, David?" I took a deep breath. "Because small businesses in Nigeria are drowning in chaos. I've lived it. I know how hard it is to track sales, manage staff, and stay afloat. Ogadesk makes it simple. Fast, local." He nodded slowly, then said something I'll never forget. "Your story is strong, but passion without structure fails. I'll invest N5 million now, if you can show me growth in 3 months. My hands were shaking under the table. I agreed. As I walked out of that cafe, the sun hit my face. The air smelled like roasted corn and damp Lagos soil. I had no office, no team, just a laptop, a dream, and a deadline. But I also had fire in my chest. Bio was still laughing at the office. He had no idea I had just signed the beginning of the end. Back at work, I doubled down. During the day, I wore my humble admin support face. At night, I worked on Ogadesk with Toby, my friend and tech genius who believed in me more than I believed in myself. We launched a basic version after 4 weeks. It was rough, buggy, but it worked. I started pitching it to the same people I helped during my lowest days. Small shops in Oshodi, a tailor in Mushin, a car wash in Ikeja, even my old mechanic. They signed up, not because the app was perfect, but because they trusted me. Within 6 weeks, we had 40 businesses on board, and they were actually using it. I recorded testimonials, took screenshots, built reports. I sent everything to Mr. Adewale. His reply was short. "Impressive. Let's talk scaling." That same day, I walked into the office and saw Bio laughing with 2 managers. I heard him say, "Some people belong in the dustbin of ambition." He didn't look at me, but I smiled quietly, because I wasn't just climbing anymore. I was getting ready to fly. I didn't expect to see Zainab crying in the restroom. It was after hours. I had stayed back as usual. I heard a soft sniffle behind the half-closed door. When I walked in, she was by the sink, wiping her face. "Zainab?" I asked gently. She looked up. Her eyes were red. "He threatened me." "Bayo?" She nodded. "He found out I've been checking finance records. He said if I keep digging, he'll ruin my career." I felt anger rise in my chest, but I kept my voice calm. "You're not alone," I said. "I have everything backed up, all the files, all the proof." She stared at me, shocked. "What are you going to do?" I looked at her and answered with a quiet certainty. "I'm going to take this company from him, legally, strategically, piece by piece." Zainab covered her mouth. "You're serious?" I nodded. Then my phone buzzed. It was an email from Mr. Adewale. David, meet me tomorrow. I want you to see something. I didn't know it yet, but that meeting would change everything. I arrived at the address Mr. Adewale sent me, a quiet building tucked between two warehouses in Yaba. At first, I thought it was the wrong place. No signs, no fancy logo. But when he opened the door, I was stunned. Inside was a tech co-working space. Bright, clean, full of energy. Young developers in hoodies were typing like madmen. Whiteboards full of scribbles. A small cafe in the corner. It felt like Silicon Valley, right here in Lagos. This, he said, walking beside me, is where your company begins. He pointed to a corner desk with 2 chairs. It's not big, but it's yours. Set up your team. I'll cover the rent for 3 months. After that, it's all you. I felt tears behind my eyes, but I blinked them away. Thank you, sir. He smiled. Don't thank me. Prove me right. That night I called Toby. We carried our dusty old laptops into our new tiny office. Ogadesk had a home now, and I had a battlefield. I didn't know how yet, but I knew I was coming for Bayo. The first real challenge came quickly. We had a product, but we needed people to see it. I couldn't afford big ads, so I used what I had, my story. I made short videos on Instagram and TikTok, just me talking directly to the camera. My name is David. I was demoted at work, laughed at, but I didn't give up. I built Ogadesk for small businesses. If you're tired of confusion, sign up. It's free for now. The videos weren't perfect, but they were real, honest. I posted them every day. Within a week, we had 200 signups. Toby and I worked day and night fixing bugs, answering emails, calling users. Sometimes we slept on the office floor. We were exhausted, but we were alive. Then one day I opened my email and froze. There was a message from a major business blog in Nigeria. We saw your story. Can we interview you? I showed it to Toby. He stared at me. Bro, you're going viral. The interview went live on a Thursday. By Friday morning, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. People were reposting it. Clients were reaching out. A few small investors even messaged me. But one message stood out. It was from someone inside our company, someone I didn't know. David, I'm ready to help you. I've seen what you're doing. I have something that could break Bayo. Let's talk, privately. My heart skipped. I replied immediately. We agreed to meet that evening, just outside the office gates, where the Danfo buses usually parked. It was a guy from procurement, Chaik. He looked over his shoulder like he was in a spy movie. Then he handed me a flash drive. These are the vendor contracts Bayo signed, he said. Fake names, fake jobs. He's been bleeding the company dry. I stared at the flash. My hands trembled. This was it, the final piece. And I knew. The next move I made could either change my life or destroy it. I didn't sleep that night. I stared at the flash drive like it was a ticking bomb. My thoughts were loud. What if I was wrong? What if Bayo found out? What if this brought more harm than good? But I reminded myself why I started. Zainab, Toby, all the people working hard under bad leaders. I went through the files with Toby. One contract claimed the company paid N18 million to Galaxy Waste Disposal Ltd for office cleaning. But the cleaner still used her same old mop and wore torn gloves. We knew what we had to do. I contacted a lawyer, a quiet, sharp man Mr. Adewale recommended. He went through the evidence and said just 5 words. This can take him down. But he added, you need the board's support, quietly. That meant finding out who on the board was still clean, and who Bayo had already bought. I looked up from the documents and whispered to myself, this is war now, and I was ready to fight it the smart way. It started with quiet phone calls. Zainab connected me with Mrs. Oduwole, a senior board member known for her integrity. I requested a private meeting, sent her a secure copy of the files. We met in a cafe in Ikoyi, away from the noise. She wore a crisp suit, no smile. But when I showed her the documents, her eyes narrowed. Where did you get these? she asked. I didn't lie. I've been watching for months. I couldn't sit quietly while the company suffered. She leaned back, thinking. Then she looked straight at me. You're brave or foolish. Maybe both. Then came the unexpected part. She told me she had suspected Bayo for a long time, but never had proof. Now she did. And she was ready to call for a board review. I walked out of that cafe into the Lagos heat, heart pounding. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about justice. And I was no longer fighting alone. On Monday morning, the email came. Emergency board meeting. Wednesday, 10 a.m. Attendance mandatory. The entire office was buzzing with whispers. People knew something big was happening, but they didn't know what. Bayo walked around as usual, laughing, slapping backs, pretending nothing was wrong. But I watched him closely. He didn't know the storm coming. That evening I stayed back again, the office almost empty, when Zainab walked over and handed me something. It was a manila folder. Inside were printed screenshots of messages between Bayo and a fake vendor, where he openly discussed splitting funds and covering tracks. Where did you get these? I asked. She smiled weakly. Let's just say, people are tired of being silent. I looked at the evidence. My throat tightened. This was the final nail. Wednesday would decide everything, and in that moment I realized I wasn't scared anymore. I was ready. Wednesday came like thunder. I wore my cleanest shirt, simple but ironed sharp. I walked into the boardroom at 9:57 a.m. My hands were steady, but my heart? It felt like a drum inside my chest. The board members filed in one by one. Mrs. Odewole nodded at me, calm, firm. Then Bayo entered. He looked around, confused at the tension in the air. What's this really about? He chuckled. Someone steal more office pens? Nobody laughed. Mrs. Odewole stood up. This meeting is about integrity and the future of this company. She opened a file, placed it gently on the table. Mr. Bayo, we've reviewed internal records, vendor payments, approvals, digital trails. There are serious allegations of financial misconduct. Bayo scoffed. Allegations from where? Who? Then she looked at me and said, David, please present your findings. I stood up. The same guy who was mocked, pushed aside, laughed at, now holding the room in silence. I plugged in the flash drive and said softly, let me show you what he's been hiding. I walked them through the files, one by one. Fake vendors, duplicate payments, chat messages, bank trails. Nobody said a word. Only the hum of the projector filled the silence. Bayo sat frozen, his fake smile now completely gone. His face twitched. He tried to speak. This is fake. He's lying. But the evidence was too much. Mrs. Odewole turned to the others. The board will now vote on his immediate suspension, pending investigation. Hands went up, one after another. 7 out of 9. Bayo stood up. You'll all regret this. This boy is manipulating. Enough, Mrs. Odewole snapped. Security will escort you out. The door opened. 2 guards stepped in. As they led him out, our eyes met. This time, he was the one looking small. And for the first time since my demotion, I felt tall again. The next weeks moved fast. The board named me interim head of operations to help rebuild trust and transparency. It wasn't the top chair, but it was a beginning. More staff came forward with support. Even clients noticed the change. Oga Desk grew too. With the press attention and new investors, we moved into a proper office space. I hired a real team. Zainab came on as lead finance advisor. Toby ran tech like a wizard. Then, one afternoon, I walked past my old corner, that dusty desk where I was once humiliated. I sat there for a moment, remembering. The laughter, the silence, the pain, and now, the growth. That same day, I got a letter from the board. We'd like to formally offer you the position of CEO, I smiled, not out of pride, but because I knew now, pain can push you or break you. I chose to rise. If this story inspired you, please like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs hope. Remember, your setback today might be the start of your greatest comeback. Keep going. The end.